Are you new to the lock journey and wondering how to retwist dreads? Or maybe you're simply someone with semi-freeform dreads who knows that it's time to do a retwist, but you don't know where to start. Whoever you are, whatever your situation is, today I'm going to be showing you how to retwist dreads. Let's get it. Welcome back to the Atreyu Locs channel. Hi, I'm Atreyu, a semi-freeformer who is dedicated to bringing you the best tips to grow a healthy set of locks. If this is your first time, make yourself comfortable. I'm glad to have you. So as you can probably guess, I just washed my locks. They are up in this towel, drying off a little bit because I don't like to retwist with sopping wet locks. For one thing, it's just super messy, water flinging everywhere. You gotta wipe that up, and it's just, no time for that. And then secondly, it takes longer for your hair to dry after the retwist. So I like to put a towel on, leave it on for however long, depending on what I'm doing. Sometimes it can be 20 minutes, sometimes it can be an hour if I'm watching a movie or something, just to get some of that excess moisture out of my locks. And then I begin the retwist. So I'm gonna give you a few tips about the retwist, and I'm gonna divvy it up. Some of the tips will be geared towards new lockers, while the other tips will be more geared towards people who are on a semi-freeform lock journey like me. The first tip is if you are new to locks, so you're just starting out and maybe this is your first time retwisting yourself or maintaining your own locks, especially if you are within that first year of having locks, you definitely, when you retwist, want to try to maintain the same initial parts. So obviously you want to do whatever you can to maintain the same parts, assuming that you are satisfied with those parts. So let's say you went to a loctician and they established these awesome parts. Maybe they used the brick pattern or the diamond pattern, and they also took into account how much hair should be incorporated into that section to produce your desired thickness for your locks. And they just, factored all of that into the process when they gave you your starter locks. If you're satisfied with all of that, then you definitely want to make sure that you do your best to maintain those same parts. So maybe this will entail using a comb to make sure all the hairs are going into the appropriate locks that they were meant to. If you don't, then this could lead to thinning locks. So let me just emphasize that when I say thinning locks in this scenario, I'm not talking about thinning hair coming out of your scalp, which can lead to thinning locks. I'm referring to the fact that because you have fewer strands going into a lock, that lock thins out gradually over time. So think about it. If you have two locks and then you steal some of the hairs from one lock and give it to the other lock, then that one lock that you gave it to is going to be thicker with time because there are more strands going into it now. But the lock that you stole those hairs from, it's going to become thinner with time because there are fewer strands in there now making up that lock. So just be careful when you're re-establishing those parts to make sure that they are comparable to the parts that you originally had. The second tip is for people who have semi-freeform dreads like me. Obviously, if you're a semi-freeformer like me, then that means you've gone a while without doing maintenance. If you also have hair that grows away from your locks like me, then most likely you're gonna have tons of marriages, okay? And I spoke about this in a previous video about how you can prevent this or avoid all of these marriages through the repeated action of separating your locks. But still, because you have hair that grows away from your locks, you're still gonna have marriages. So you're going to also want to reestablish those parts. Maybe it's been 7 months since you did your last retwist, and you're just gonna have to be very careful with it to also make sure that you're getting the right hairs going into the appropriate locks, because if you don't, you're gonna wind up with some locks that are thinning out while other locks are getting thicker. Now, most of us don't mind our locks getting thicker, that's seen as a good thing. A thick, strong lock, right? But what about those other locks that are suffering as a result of the fact that you've stolen hairs from it to make another lot thicker, okay? So use this time, the retwist time, as you're reestablishing those parts to figure out what you want to do with those locks. Now you might discover some locks that it's looking like, maybe I shouldn't separate those two locks because yeah, that one might be good, but the other one that's joined, when I separate it, it's going to be hanging on by a couple of strands. So maybe I don't want to separate those. Maybe I'll let those two combine. Or maybe two smaller locks have combined partially and you're looking at them and you're like, yeah, those will probably do better together, so I'll leave those combined, you know? So at this point, when you're separating your locks, make sure that you're making the best decisions for your locks, whether you need to separate or whether you need to let the locks that have already joined and are stronger as a result of being together, let them stay combined. Obviously, a semi-freeformer is not as concerned about their parts as someone who maintains their locks regularly. Also, with the semi-freeform locker, I would say that because you go months and months and months without retwisting a lot of times, then you're probably going to get hairs coming out of your scalp that don't really belong in any of the existing locks. I've seen this happen a lot with semi-freeform lockers, and what some of those lockers will do is just start new baby locks. I've never been a fan of that because I kind of want all of my locks to be somewhat of a comparable length, but you know, to each his or her own. Shout out to you, Mass Naturals. So yeah, I mean, with that new growth that doesn't really go into any lock, you can divvy it up and put it into the surrounding locks, or you can start new baby locks. It's up to you. But hey, if you guys are enjoying this video, definitely hit the like button, smash the subscribe button if you want to see more lock content from moi, and be sure to hit the notification bell so that you are notified every time I upload as soon as I do. Moving on, clips versus no clips. So I'm gonna look over the span of my lock experience and give you the best tips. This is what I suggest. If you are a new locker, you're within that first year, I wholeheartedly suggest the use of clips. The reason is, I think it helps someone who is maintaining their own locks, who is new to locks and new to lock maintenance, to have a very systematic approach to maintaining their hair. Clips will do that for you. They will definitely afford you that systematic process, and it will give you control. You'll be able to easily see what's happening, what you're doing, what's going on, how much further you need to go, and all that. All those little things that may not seem like a big deal, trust me, they are. I would also suggest the use of clips for those who are on a semi-freeform journey, like me. So people like us, we go months and months and months without retwisting, and then when it's time to retwist, we have all of those marriages and we get overwhelmed. This happened to me, I think around this time last year. I was like, oh my gosh, I just can't. Like, I was supposed to retwist and I just could not bring myself to do it. So I didn't retwist, and then maybe like 3 weeks later, and by the way, I wasn't using clips at that time. And then about 3 weeks later, I was like, okay, I'm gonna try it again. And I had the idea to go back to my roots and use clips, and I finally was able to do it. So the clips just, I don't know, something about it being, it's like an aid almost, you know? It's kind of like, okay, everything is in order. The clips are sectioning the hair for you. You don't feel overwhelmed. It's keeping the hairs in place and not allowing other hairs to interfere with the locks that you've already retwisted, and vice versa. And it's just so much better. It definitely affords you control, and you get to, as I said before, clearly see your progress. Okay, I've completed 3 rows. I have this many more to go. And yeah, clips are just great, okay? So don't think that if you still use clips, or if you need to use clips, like it's a bad thing. That being said, there are certain advantages to using no clips. So you might be thinking, well, who should use no clips if semi-freeform lockers and people within their first year of having locks should use clips? I would say anyone that's past their first year and that is maintaining their locks regularly, maybe once a month or once every 2 months. Those people, I think that no clips are perfect for, because if you're maintaining your locks regularly, then that means most likely those parts will still be somewhat established. you won't have as many marriages, especially if you're separating in between retwists after every wash. Those parts will pretty much still be there. If you don't have hair that grows away from your locks, then that's even better. Those parts will definitely still be there. The advantage of not using clips is that it's just quicker. You don't have to worry about putting in the clips, and then you also don't have to worry about taking them out once your locks dry. You also can avoid the embarrassing situation where you go out, you think you've taken all your clips out, but then when you get back home several hours later, and you're feeling the back of your head, you realize that, oh, there's a clip in there. And then you start to think about all the people that you've encountered who must have seen that clip, who didn't say anything, and it's just an embarrassing situation. So, to avoid all of that, and to have a much quicker retwist, and just overall maintenance time, you have the option of no clips. Some people don't ever really feel comfortable going the no clips route. They don't feel comfortable trying it. It took me a while to actually try that cinnamon bun method, but once I did, got the hang of it, I loved it. But now that I'm semi-freeforming, I've gone back to the clips. So you have to just figure out what will work best for you, and everyone is different, okay? Okay. All right, so those were just a few tips that I wanted to get into before going to the retwist demonstration. So yeah, let me demonstrate how to retwist dreads on a couple of locks. All right, so I'm gonna demonstrate two ways. I'm going to demonstrate the first way with a clip, and then the second way I'm going to demonstrate without a clip. So I'm going to be working with this lock right here, okay? And the first thing I'm going to do is section the lock. So if you're looking close, you can see that webbing there. Okay, it's connected to the nearby lock. So just pull it, separate it. Okay, and just make sure you separate, like there's another one, you separate all around the lock. And you want to pull in the hairs that you know go into the lock. At this point, you could use your comb. I like the rat tail comb to kind of really get in there and reestablish the part. You can clearly see what hair should go in there. Okay, so that's that side. Now on this side of the lock, because it's the same lock, right? Kind of want to do a similar thing and reestablish the part by going in there. See how it's connected? And just separate like that. And then do it at the back as well. All around, you want to make sure you're getting all the hairs that should be going into the appropriate lock. Okay. And my lines are not super straight anymore because I didn't maintain them that way. I didn't really want them to be like that. I mean, I am, after all, on the semi-freeform lock journey, so I've never been super obsessed with like straight parts per se, right? But I'm gonna act like I am for the purpose of this video, just so you guys can see if you're especially new and you're trying to maintain your locks and maintain those parts. Okay, so and then you just group the hair together, so you kind of comb it in. Sure those other hairs are out. Okay, like that. Then you could use whatever you use to retwist with. I use distilled water or rose water. It just depends on the occasion. Today I'm using rose water, and I'm just gonna spray the root there. Okay. So now that I got the nice parts all around, then I'm gonna just take it and twist like that. All right, so I got that, and then I'm gonna grab a clip and just put that in there like that. So it holds it in place like that. And that is how I retwist with a clip, okay? So just to recap, I section the hair. I get all of the hairs that should not be going into the lock out of there. And when I cared about having neat parts, as earlier in my journey, I would use a comb, part it through, make sure that I had the lines that I wanted to have. And then I apply a little bit of whatever I'm going to use to retwist with. Usually for me it's distilled water or rose water. And then I spray it, and then I twist and I put the clip on it like that, okay? And then I wouldn't remove the clip until the lock obviously dried. If you remove it prematurely, then it's gonna unravel, like now. I could just easily undo it. All right, so now I'm gonna show you the cinnamon bun method, the method that does not require clips, so the no clip method. Pretty much it's the same. I've grouped the hair. I'm gonna spray it there, and then I'm going to, all this extra hair, the loose hair, I'm gonna wrap that around the lock just to gather it. And then I'm going to put my finger there and wrap the lock around it like that. Okay, and that creates a little cinnamon bun. And then it'll just dry like that. It may come down at some point, or I can pull it down when it's done, and it would be a light retwist, okay? So that's pretty much all that retwisting entails. Let's do another one. Let's work with this one. So this is usually how, as a semi-freeformer, I retwist. I just use my fingers, I don't use a comb. And I pull all the hairs away that I don't want to go into that lock. I spray with my rose water. I group the hairs like that with my fingers instead of with the comb. And then I twist. And then I'll put a clip on it. Now imagine I was retwisting all of my locks right now. Then I would also put a clip further down, maybe to a lock, a nearby lock. So like that one, to kind of hold it, in place. So it's held up there, that retwist, the twisted root, and then it's held down there. Or this lock, I might put it behind my ear. Usually I start from the back and work my way forward. So all of this back here is already retwisted. So all I need to do is kind of tuck it behind my ear. You learn different methods that work best for you. But I'm curious, how do you guys retwist? Do you have any secret techniques? Especially when it comes to like the sectioning, do you use like hair ties to section? Like I remember seeing this one locker, this one YouTuber, she put her hair in like, she sectioned her hair in 4 parts, put hair ties on the 4 parts, and then just retwisted each section. I could never do that, even though I think it's a super cool way, because my hair grows away from my locks. And so what would end up happening is the hairs would be married across the sections regardless of where I sectioned it, and it just didn't work. So, but yeah, I'm curious to know, what methods do you use, and do you use clips or no clips? Once again, if you try no clips and you can't get the hang of it, then just stick with clips. Both ways are great. It's all about what works best for you and your situation. Now, I know you guys probably want to see my whole head retwisted, but that will not happen until next week's video, so definitely be on the lookout for that video. It's gonna be my 6x8 lock update. I know one of you, Olivia, I think it has been requesting that, since I don't do monthly lock updates anymore. And so I'm going to be delivering that update next Saturday. And then in that video, I'm also going to be doing a quick length check, because another one of you guys wanted to see that. So yeah, definitely be on the lookout for next week's video. A lot happening. And you get to see a fresh retwist, which you don't see very often on your boy. If you choose to love, do so unconditionally, because loving with conditions conditions the heart to not really love at all. This is Atreyu Locs, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.